I was reborn as a mech, but every single day I get abused by this unhinged girl. When she fires, she has to push the barrel until it overheats. Even walking, she uses overloaded thrusters, with zero concern for whether I live or die. The craziest part is, every time we establish neural sync, I can feel her overwhelming hatred, like she wants to tear me apart into scrap metal. I just can't understand it. I'm only a machine with no feelings. Did I dig up her family's graves or something? Since I don't have an AI module, I can't even send out a warning pop-up. All I can do is silently endure the pain of my body being ripped apart. Even the base mechanic looked at my battle-scarred body, shook his head, and said after the next training session, they'd have to take me apart for spare parts. I completely panicked. This was a life-or-death situation, and I absolutely could not take that risk. Just as I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to survive, the radar alarm inside me suddenly went berserk. The next second, several ghostly blue fireballs of destruction smashed straight through the hangar ceiling. Seeing those fireballs about to burn everyone in the control room to ash, my survival instinct completely exploded. Under everyone's terrified gaze, I, a mech that was supposed to have no consciousness, actually raised my steel arm on my own. I pinned that deadly fireball hard against the wall, and scorching blue slime poured wildly through the gaps between my alloy fingers. The whole place went dead silent. Everyone stared at me like they'd just seen a ghost. How could Xingtian move on its own? But there was no time to breathe. A desperate battle report came in. The deep-sea beasts had launched an energy carpet strike, and countless monsters were already dropping right on top of us. As the only person on the base currently able to pilot a mech, the wild girl quickly changed into her combat suit and jumped into my cockpit. And I became the base's last remaining line of defense. A roar came from outside the hangar. The heavy alloy gate was actually torn apart by a 30-meter-tall giant shell beast. The girl locked her eyes on the terrifying monster outside, swinging its massive claws, and activated neural sync without hesitation. Heavy machine cannon loaded, rocket thrusters at full power. She didn't play fair at all. She instantly pushed my thrusters to the limit, shot straight upward, and slammed a heavy punch right into that monster's ugly face. The giant beast that had just entered was sent flying. Before it even hit the ground, the girl piloted me forward again and smashed an uppercut straight into its jaw, shattering it. The beast howled and staggered back. The armor on both my arms instantly deployed 2 razor-sharp wrist blades. The girl made me leap into the air, aiming to slice off its head in one strike, but the massive impact knocked the blade half off course. Just then, the beast's 3 terrifying spike tails stabbed deep into my back. Under the armor's neural sync, the girl in the cockpit let out a muffled groan and nearly collapsed. The beast seized the chance and counterattacked like crazy. Just as its deadly claws were about to tear us apart, at the critical moment, I forcibly took control of the body. The reactor instantly surged into overload. Under the girl's stunned gaze, I ignored her command and moved on my own. I turned my massive steel body around, and my wrist blade flashed with a deadly cold light, cutting off the ambushing spike tails in one brutal strike. The girl had no time to process my loss of control. She endured the pain and pushed down the control lever. Using the momentum from the turn, I brought down a heavy slash and directly beheaded the beast. Looking at the green slime all over the ground, the girl gritted her teeth and pulled the spike tails out of my back. The pain from the neural sync felt like steel knives carving into the heart. But the next second, a terrifying signal appeared on the radar panel, enough to plunge the entire base into despair. 2 newly fused supershell beasts were breaking out of the deep sea, carrying suffocating pressure with them. And at that moment, the horrifying holes in my back, where the spike tails had been pulled out, were spraying electricity like crazy. The cold wind mercilessly poured into my core components, and my body kept letting out dying groans like it was about to fall apart. This girl really wanted me dead. If I hadn't gone all out just now, forcibly taken back control of the mech and pulled off that counterkill, we would have already been torn into scrap by the last monster. But this reckless girl wasn't even a little grateful to have survived. Instead, after getting her first kill, her confidence went through the roof. She even smugly glanced at the surveillance camera, crazily fishing for praise from her anxious general father in the command room. Facing 2 new beasts powerful enough to destroy everything, the general's face turned pale, and he was just about to issue an emergency retreat order. But this crazy girl yanked the control stick and forced my broken body into a stance like she was ready to take them both on. I was so pissed I almost laughed. Lady, where the hell are you getting this courage? My back is literally shooting sparks and lightning, and the reactor temperature passed the red line a long time ago. It could blow out completely at any second. Watching her drag me towards certain death like a reckless rookie, I didn't dare forcibly take control again. Because once I overrode her command and increased the energy output, Xingtian would self-destruct on the spot from reactor overload. Just when I was stuck with no way out, thinking this was where I would die, a cold, mechanical voice, as beautiful as music from heaven, suddenly exploded deep inside my processor. Ding. Host detected, completing first kill. Divine evolution system activated, converting host's historical kills into corresponding evolution points. Deposit successful. In an instant, my reactor, which had been on the verge of collapse, suddenly released an unbelievable roar. My mech brain instantly entered an unprecedented overclocked overload state. I quickly figured out how this insane system worked. As long as I scored kills, I could earn points and use them in the shop to exchange for ridiculously powerful body upgrade modules and combat skills. What made me even more ecstatic was that the shop actually had an ultimate reward called Mech Soul Manifestation. In simple terms, as long as I bought it, I could appear in the real world as a living being, and freely switch between human and mech forms anytime. I finally had hope of becoming human again. And what I never expected was, as a first-generation legendary mech that had survived countless battles, Xingtian's entire history of past kills had been converted by the system into my starting funds. But reality gave me no time to count my assets. The beast's deafening roars dragged my thoughts straight back to the battlefield. The wild girl already had bloodshot eyes, pushed the thrusters to the limit, and launched a suicide charge toward the two monsters with me. Lady, I'm begging you, can we please stop messing around? With death closing in, I frantically opened the system shop and with one big move, directly exchanged for 2 top-tier life-saving modules, a brand new turbine and reactor. That still wasn't enough. To completely stop this crazy girl's garbage piloting, I also instantly bought a packaged holographic high-intelligence AI interaction system. Since you can't understand a mech's protest, once my AI goes online, I'm going to teach you a lesson to your face. I spent a full 16,000 evolution points at the edge of death to buy a life-saving holographic high-intelligence AI system. But then this trash system popped up a notification. Local delivery requires 10 minutes. Looking at the 2 deep-sea beasts rapidly closing in on the radar, I wanted to dig up this stupid system's ancestors. I had already prepared to be surrounded by divine light and upgrade in the coolest way possible. I had even struck the pose for turning back into a human. Who would believe this? We're already in the cyberpunk era, yet this trash system's logistics are still stuck on manual delivery. I'm paying with money meant to save my life, and it's making me wait 10 minutes for delivery. On a meat grinder battlefield like this, 10 minutes is enough for me to die 800 times. But my points were already emptied, and the life-saving parts were still on the way. Right now, I could only grit my teeth and struggle on with this reckless girl who only knew how to feed herself to the enemy. The twin cannons on my back spewed fire like crazy, desperately bombing one of the giant shell beasts charging toward us. Unfortunately, my old antique gear was just too outdated. The shells hit the monster's new armor and couldn't even leave a dent. At most, they only slowed its charge a little. But the crazy girl in the cockpit didn't care about any of that. Not only did she refuse to keep her distance, she piloted me into a full-speed head-on charge. My massive steel body leaped into the air, and my sharp wrist blade came down hard at the monster's ugly face. The monster let out a roar, raised its thick claws, and locked the blade in place. One mech and one beast instantly froze in a deadly standoff in the flames, neither side giving an inch.